All right, what's up, everybody? I am excited to be here today. My name is Travis, and we are at Spellbound Magic Shop and Theater. And as you know, throughout the last year, I've had the benefit, privilege even, to interview some pretty amazing people out there and some very generous performers. Colin Cloud and Justin Flom, Eric Jones, Lance Burton, as you're aware, I got to do him last year. The Dark Cabaret. So many amazing people out there spent some time with me live right here on Facebook, on YouTube, wherever you may be watching. And once again, we get to talk to Master Magician Lance Burton, talking about his upcoming show, Return to the Stage, especially after this huge gap of so many people not being able to perform during COVID. He is back. So before we begin, let's check out Lance's B-roll video. It's an absolutely amazing trip down memory lane of all the things that he'd done. I love watching it. So we are going to start that now.
Hi, I'm Lance Burton. I'm standing in the middle of the Nevada desert, just outside Las Vegas, the magic capital of the world. On a clear day, you can see for 100 miles in every direction. And when you're in a magical place like this, it's a good idea to keep your eyes open at all times. You never know what's going to happen. Come on, let's get started.
All right, we are live with Master Magician Lance Burton. We already have people tuning in, which is great, and we have some comments and some memories coming in down here. But if you're watching, make sure to comment where you're watching from, some memories, some questions for Lance. We're going to interact as much as we can and just see what Lance has been up to. So, Lance, how are we doing today?
Hey, Travis, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you great, Lance. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today.
Fantastic. Good to be back. And, well, the last time we chatted, I was in Las Vegas.
That's true. You have a completely different backdrop behind you now.
Yeah,
so what have you been up to? Where are you at now?
Well, in October, I packed up and I moved back to Kentucky, which was always my plan over the years. And I moved back to the farm. And
Wow.
Actually, this farm that I'm living at, this was my farm where my dad was born and raised. This was my grandfather's farm. He bought it in the 1930s. So it's been in my family for 90 years.
Wow, that's very cool to be back there, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah. I love living out in the country. And, you know, when the almost 40 years I spent in Las Vegas, I kept moving around Vegas. I kept moving farther and farther out of town, trying to get out into the country. And, of course, the town kept growing.
Right.
So I've always been a country boy at heart. So now I'm back on the farm and surrounded by animals and cows, and I've got all my cats and my dog here, and we're just I couldn't be happier. And now in about a week or so, I'm heading up your direction.
Yeah, you're gonna be passing through, heading straight up to North Dakota, where you get to do the same show we talked about last year, but unfortunately COVID hit.
That's right. I was planning on being there last year, but then the pandemic shut everything down. And
yeah, it really did.
So this will.
How was it there in Vegas with the whole pandemic thing? How much did that change stuff for you?
Oh, well, well, for me personally, not that much. I retired in 2010, so I've been a homebody for 10 years. So you know, it wasn't that hard on me because that's kind of my lifestyle anyway, staying home with my animals. But I did really miss being able to go out every now and then and perform and do shows. Our last show was February 14th, of 2020, and we did 2 shows at the Blackpool Opera House over in Blackpool, England, for the Blackpool Magic Convention. We had a fantastic time. It was a great convention, and it's the world's largest magic convention. 5,000 magicians showed up there.
That's crazy. It's one of those places that it's kind of on the bucket list. I see tons of photos and people talking about it all the time, and it's amazing. So how close was that to the COVID pandemic? Was that kind of right at the beginning of that?
We had just started hearing about it. As a matter of fact, on the way back to the States, we got on the plane to fly back to the United States, and when we went to the airport, that was really the first time I wore a mask out in plane. But I had one of those little masks, and I just wore it on the plane. I said, you know what? I'm not taking any chances. We're hearing about this. It really hadn't dawned on us that it was in America at that point, but we were certainly hearing about it coming out of other parts of the world. So we got back in the States just in time, before all the airlines kind of shut down.
Good. That was my question. If you got stuck over there or not, or got to come back right away, or quarantine period, or how that worked.
Fortunately, we got back in time. We did spend one extra day in Liverpool. My good buddy Paul Stone is from Liverpool, and he took the whole cast to Liverpool, and gave us the tour. And we visited all of the sites where the Beatles performed, the Country Club, and we went to the Beatles Museum, and we just had a great time in Liverpool.
That's good. I'm glad you got to do that before it got too crazy over there. So,
yeah, and I posted some photos on my Facebook page. We had photos there at Abbey Road, and it was exciting. It was a fun trip.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Anytime you get to go somewhere new or different, away from the norm, it's always fun, especially when you're with friends. So speaking of friends, let's talk about the Return to Stage Lance Burton and Friends show. What do you got in store for us? Has anything changed with all this downtime? Have you planned anything new or different? Just tell us about the show.
I've actually been working on some new magic. I don't think we'll have the new tricks in for this gig, but by the end of the year, we'll have a couple of new things in the show. At this point, we're just trying to remember the show. It's been over a year. So it's me, and I do about half of the show. I'm doing some big illusions and some audience participation, and sleight of hand magic. And then I have my friends who do about half the show, and that's comedy magician Fielding West, who a lot of people have seen. My good buddy Michael Goudot, who's the world's funniest juggler, and he was with me in Las Vegas there for 20 years. And Keith West and the Illusioneers from Des Moines, Iowa, and they do really fast-paced, cutting-edge illusions. So it's got a little bit of something for everybody.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think the one thing that I was excited to hear out of that was that you're working on new material, not for this show, but the next one. That means that you are planning to continue touring this show, hopefully. Oh yeah. Well, the big thing that happened during the COVID is I bought a tour bus, and we're working on the bus now. It's having some interior design things going on. We're going to have it wrapped, but hopefully we'll bring it up. We're planning on bringing it up to North Dakota. It won't be in its finished state, but we want to give it a kind of a shakedown cruise. So that'll be fun. Now you have to understand, most magicians, most entertainers will go out when they're in their 20s or 30s, and they may travel around the country for 20 years, and then they'll get a residency in Las Vegas. I did my career backwards. I wound up in Las Vegas at the age of 22, so I only had 3 jobs. My career there in Las Vegas: the Tropicana Hotel, the Hacienda Hotel, and the Monte Carlo Hotel. Yeah.
And then I retired. So now at this stage in life, I missed out on getting to tour around and travel and see all these new places. So that's what I'm doing now. And so anyway, I bought the bus and I thought this will be fun. We'll have a nice bus. And if we're doing one-nighters, we can do a show and do our meet and greets and get in the bus. We can go to sleep. We'll wake up in the next city and do it all over.
Yeah, that's super cool. And I've talked to so many people talking and promoting your show a little bit and saying that we'll be doing this interview, and even friends here in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, they're telling me about times they've seen you at the Monte Carlo or all these other places, and how excited they are to see your show again. And so that's great to be able to actually go out to the people where they are and not make everybody go to Las Vegas.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing about it is every show is opening night. So it's always exciting. And my favorite part of the show now is after the show, the entire cast, we go out into the lobby and do the meet and greet. Sometimes we're out there for an hour. Sometimes we're out there for 2 hours. And we meet people and sign autographs and take photos. And I'm hearing unbelievable stories from people. People will come in and they'll, the guy will come in with his kids, and he'll say, when I was 8 years old, I saw you in Las Vegas, and I went up on stage and I put my hand on the bird cage and it disappeared. And this is my daughter, and she's 8 years old. She came up tonight, put her hand on the cage. And here's my mother. She's the one that brought me to Las Vegas. And she that's
creating a whole lineage of people going to Lance Burton.
I love hearing these stories. Oh, and we got comments. No, I'm looking over here. And
The first one we have here, it looks like we have, I apologize, I don't speak nothing other than English, but it looks like we have somebody from Cuba.
Oh, fantastic. From Cuba. They had a magic convention in Cuba a year or two ago, and I sent them I couldn't go, but I sent them a video greeting, and they were very kind to me.
Very cool. Looks like we also have Philip Goff here. Good for you, friend. You've gone a long way from archery class.
Oh my goodness! You know what? Philip and I must have been in archery class at the University of Louisville. That was one of my PE. You had to have a PE requirement, and I chose archery. Oh, Philip,
very cool. Yeah. That's cool. See, old friends that you didn't even know were going to be on here today.
Exactly.
So that's very cool.
And Trenton, what a great lineup. It is a good lineup, Trenton. We have some of the best magicians in the world, and it's a fun group to hang out with also.
Yeah.
And on your tour, you're going to have time to kick it with other magicians. I certainly hope so. I love to meet the other magicians, and if you're coming up to North Dakota to the Prairie Knights Casino, let's after the meet and greets, let's go. We don't have to rush off that night. Let's go to the coffee shop. We'll get a group of magicians together and hit the coffee shop. Have a little breakfast.
Very good. And then Richard,
what does he say? Was your
production act the spark that got you into Vegas?
Yeah, the act that I started with was the Dove Act, with the birds and the cards and the candles, and that was my act that I first kind of got out there and started performing with, and got me on Johnny Carson and out to.
I love that story of Carson, how you ended up getting that whole time slot, not just the few minutes that originally was offered. I love that story.
Yeah, they usually only keep you to like 5 minutes, and Carson saw the rehearsal and he said, "Hey, let the kid do the whole 12 minutes." And so he was personally responsible. That was a great launching pad for my career. Forever, ever grateful to Johnny Carson. He loved magic. Yeah. Carson was a magician himself, and he loved sleight of hand magic, especially.
Yeah.
We're hoping.
So you go to your first show, the tour. That's so that is the North Dakota. That is your first stop of this tour here.
Yeah. This will be my first time in North Dakota, and we're coming through South Dakota, so it'll be my first time there. Also, And then in August, we will be in Colon, Michigan for the Abbott's Convention. We're doing the Saturday night. We're the closing night show at Abbott's, so I'm looking forward to that. But I'll be there the whole week at Abbott's. So if you're
very cool.
Up to Colon, Michigan, that's going to be a great convention. Matt King is also coming in. Mike Caveney's coming in. Tina Leonard's coming in. Kevin James is coming in. He'll be on one of the evening shows, so it's going to be a good lineup.
Yeah. I got to see Kevin James perform live for the first time. Is maybe, I don't even know how many years ago, maybe 5 years ago. He actually came to South Dakota with the Illusionist show.
Yes. They're reopening now here shortly.
Oh, that's awesome.
I heard they are opening the show, I think, in Kansas City.
Okay.
In a week or so. And
Gotcha.
Here's a comment from Donna. Says, "Oh yeah, she saw us, Lance Burton and friends, at the Louisville Palace a couple of years ago." Yes, and Donna, that was one of our first shows doing Lance Burton and friends. The show's changed a little bit since then. We've added a few more larger illusions, but we also at that show at the Palace we had Cody Clark on the lineup, who is a very talented young magician from Louisville. And Cody, well, I say young magician. I think he's almost 30 now, but to me, he's young. I met Cody when he was a teenager at the Louisville Magic Club. We actually went to the same high school, although, years apart, Butler High School in Louisville. And he also was a student at the University of Louisville long after I had left school. But Cody's a very talented young magician, and autism, what is the right word? Advocate. Cody's got a very interesting approach to magic. Because he's autistic, he has a whole show called A Different Way of Thinking, where he talks about his autism, and he talks about how it changes the way he looks at the world. And he's a very bright kid with a very bright future in magic. So if you've never seen Cody, check him out if you ever get the chance.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear. Your mic at the
So let's see. Jordan says, where do you go for your first show on your tour? This is it. It is at the Prairie Knights Casino in Fort Yates, North Dakota, July 17th. And you can go to my website, lanceburton.com. There's a link for tickets right there on my website, lanceburton.com. And each show that comes online, we're going to put on my website. So you can always find out quick and easy where we're at. Later, the tickets haven't gone on sale yet, but we do have some other gigs coming up later in the year. I think we've got a couple of cities in Colorado, and there's a couple maybe in California. And as things start to reopen now, theaters and casinos are starting to book their entertainment. So more and more of that's gonna pop up fairly quickly, I think, in the next couple of months.
If you get a chance, turn down your videos just a tad. I think I'm getting just a little bit of feedback.
I can turn down my volume here.
Yeah.
Is that a little better?
That's better, yep.
I can also switch. Let me try this. I can switch. Okay. I can switch to some headsets and see if that gives you a better sound. I know when the sound isn't right, it can be really annoying for people listening. Let me plug this in. Testing. Now, is that any better?
Yeah, I can hear you great. It doesn't sound like we're getting any feedback. So it should be great.
Now you're really loud. I'm going to turn it down volume just a little. There we go. Right. How's that?
Yeah, that's great. It just started, so nobody's really missed anything. So don't worry about that.
No worries. I apologize. Oh, look, there's more people are writing in. Here's a question about the magic shop. Is Spellbound open right now?
Yeah, it will be as soon as we're done here. No rush. 3 o'clock is kind of my window there. So come on through. I appreciate the support and thanks for tuning in here and hanging out with Lance and I. So,
Alan
uh,
Smola is asking, do you miss anything about living in Las Vegas? Oh, and Alan was at the World Magic Seminar Teen Contest in 2007, and he came to my house. Yeah, that was. As a matter of fact, Alan, we just had the teen seminar the last 2 days. We wrapped up last night about 5:30. Of course, this year the IBM, it's now held at the IBM convention. This year, the actual live convention got postponed, but they're doing a virtual convention, which starts tonight. And we did our teen seminar as a virtual seminar. So just like this, we were on the computer on the Zoom platform, and we had over 50 kids from all over the world. Of course, kids from America, young magicians from Africa. There were a couple of kids from India. And I felt bad for the kids from India, the young magicians from India, because we would take a lunch break like at noon. Well, it's midnight in India. So they would have a midnight snack, but they stayed up all night because they wanted to learn magic. And we had some terrific guest lecturers and teachers at the seminar. And it's really one of the most important thing that we do, as Eugene Berger always used to say. So that's always fun. And here's one of our, Alan's one of our alumni. And we actually had a couple of alumni teaching this year. Bill Cook from Chicago, a fantastic magician. He came and did a lecture and taught magic to the kids. And Jessica Jane Peterson, who also is an alumni and a terrific professional magician, who's now things are opening. She's going to be getting out on the road doing the cruise ships. So everybody's very happy that we're all starting to go back to work.
Yeah, you mentioned Bill Cook, which is fun because I think the first time I heard about Bill Cook, he was much younger, and I think he was in like a magic camp documentary thing.
Yes, Make Believe.
That's what it was. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's cool to see somebody that you just watched on there is just some kid learning magic. At least that's the way they made it look. I don't know how advanced he was at the time, but to be where he's at now, that's kind of cool to see that journey.
Bill was always one of the most advanced students we had because, number one, Bill just loved to practice and work on his magic and perform his magic. Number two, growing up in Chicago, he was surrounded by fantastic magicians who would take the time to teach him and show him the right way to do the move. And an interesting thing about Bill Cook, when he was in the teen program, he was maybe 16, 17, 18 years old. All during the teen seminar, I would look over. I would always see Bill Cook helping the other kids.
That's awesome.
When you're 13 or 14 years old and you're talking magic with a 17 or 18-year-old, it's only maybe 2 or 3, 4 years difference, but that's a huge gap in your magical knowledge. But Bill was one of the guys who always took the time to stop what he was doing and help the younger magicians. He could say, no, hold your finger this way when you're doing the pass. This is the correct way to do this move. Yeah. And he was always a standout student, and that was one of the main reasons. Besides his magic, he was also always a very supportive magician. It was always he wanted everybody's magic to be great, and I think that's the philosophy of our teen seminar, is to promote. Not that we're trying to make all the kids into professional magicians. We know that's not going to happen, but every kid can learn to do good magic.
Yeah, that's super cool to hear. Because you just never know. I mean, the way things can be edited for TV or anything like that. It's great to hear that he's actually doing great and has a purpose, I guess, so to speak.
Oh yeah, he's doing his career's going great. He's spends a lot of time touring around, doing cruise ships and theaters, and him and Jessica both, and we have a number of kids that came through the program that have gone on and done great things.
Looks like we have somebody here watching. Hello from St. John, New Brunswick, Canada.
Oh, Canada. Yeah, we had a number of kids from Canada at the program this year. Some very talented magicians coming out of Canada. Hello, Canada.
Yeah. And then we also have, this is actually one of the people that I got to interview as well. Joey Vasquez is part of another show called The Dark Cabaret. And I got to tell you, Lance, they performed at Abercorn Dabra, the same place where I seen your show there in Des Moines, Iowa. And it was by far one of the best parlor shows I've ever seen. The storytelling was phenomenal. And so he's another person I got to interview, and he's got a question for you. Says, Lance, you were handed down the mantle of magic from Lee Grable. Have you started to identify who may be the next predecessor? What do you think you're looking for in the next successor?
Yeah, for those who here, I'll pick up the computer and take you on a quick little mini tour. For those
now, last time we spoke, you said that social media wasn't a thing, and so it may be an eBay item.
Yeah, here's the So Harry Keller, was battling it out with Herman, Alexander Herman. And when Herman died in 1896, Keller became the undisputed #1 magician in America and toured all over the country and in the best theaters. And he retired in 1908. He named as his successor a talented young magician named Howard Thurston. And Thurston took over the show, took over the routes that Keller had established, and built the show into a big extravaganza. The wonder show of the universe, he called it. Thurston's successor was a young magician named Jensen, who he renamed Dante. And I can't get a good shot of that poster there. And Dante took the second unit of the Thurston show overseas and played all the capitals of Europe, and then finally returned to the U.S. After Howard Thurston passed away in 1936. And Dante, in his retirement, he found a young talented magician named Lee Grable, who he named as his successor. And unfortunately, before they were able to make the public announcement, Dante passed away. And Lee Grable was performing back in the 50s. And then he retired, and he did come out of retirement for a brief tour in the early 70s. But back in 1994, Lee Grable decided he needed to pass this thing on, and he found me in Las Vegas. And we had a ceremony, and he named me as his successor. So
That's awesome.
Now, the thing about it is, when you're given this, you're not there are really no hard and fast rules. They don't give you really any instructions. So basically, I can pass it along to whoever I want. So, keep your eyes peeled on eBay. That's
well, we also talked about maybe even like renting it out, $20 a day, $100 a day.
Yeah, there you
but yeah,
at some point, I will have to do that. I'll have to pass it on. Maybe in a few years. I'm still relatively young. I got a few years, I hope. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
And
well, it sounds very familiar how he retired and went back out on tour after a few years and then passed it on. That sounds very familiar here, Lance.
Yeah, I retired. People say to me, "I thought you retired," when they see me out on the show. And I say, "Listen, you're talking to a guy who for 30 years did 500, 600 shows a year. I was doing, when I first started, Matt King and our first gig was at a little amusement park. We were doing 3 shows a day, 7 days a week. That's 21 shows a week.
And I assume maybe they were outside?
Yeah, well, some of them were. Yeah, on Sundays we performed on the outdoor stage, but we did have an indoor stage to do most of our shows. And then when I first came to Las Vegas, it was 2 shows a night, 7 days a week. So that was 14 shows a week. So you're talking, you're talking to a guy doing 500, 600 shows a year. So if I decide to leave the farm for a couple of days, if I go out and do, 10 or 20 or 30 shows a year, believe me, that is retirement.
Right. That's fun. Oh, yeah, that's crazy. I had no idea that you did that many shows a year. I knew you did a lot, but that's impressive.
Yeah, somewhere between 15,000 and 16,000 shows in my lifetime. I only have really records from the Monte Carlo. So the Monte Carlo was over 5,000 shows, and there was over 5 million people.
Yeah.
Total, the 15 to 16,000 shows, it's it might be 14 million, it might be 15 million people that saw the show live total. Some of the theaters, were bigger. The Tropicana seated, I think, 1,100, and some were smaller. The years at the Hacienda, that was more of a 400 or 500 seat theater.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a lot of years with a lot of shows there.
Right. Yeah. No, that's super cool. Congratulations on that. It's an amazing numbers and amazing career. So.
Oh, thank you. Oh, here's a friend of Peter Ravine. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, Peter Ravine. He invited Elizabeth and I to come to the Desert Magic Seminar in 1994, and we saw your show twice at the Hacienda. Yes, Ravine was a very, very good man. He was very good to you. I first met Peter Ravine when I moved to Las Vegas at 1982. I met him at the Darwin Magic Club. If you've never been to Las Vegas, if you go to Las Vegas on Wednesday nights, they still meet every Wednesday night. And where are they meeting now? I think it is at Tommy Rocker's club.
That sounds familiar.
On Industrial Boulevard. Now, Gary Darwin passed away a couple of years ago, but the club still meets. Gary founded the club, and it is now being run by, what's the fella's name? The great card magician, Alan Ackerman.
Oh, wow. So
it was Gary's wish that Alan Ackerman be in charge of the club. So they still meet every week and Wednesday nights. And that's where I first met Ravine, was at Gary's club, and we became very good friends. And then later on, Peter Ravine became my manager, and Ravine was the one who negotiated the contract there at the Monte Carlo. So I'll always be grateful.
Very cool
for Ravine. He was a good friend, and we miss him. And let's see. Here's a question. Have you ever been on the board at the Magic Castle? I have not. I've been to the Magic Castle, of course, many times, and I've performed there many times, and always loved performing at the Magic Castle, and shot television specials there at the Magic Castle. In fact, my last TV special was Lance Burton, Master Magician on the Road, and we shot a whole segment there at the Magic Castle and had a great time. But I've not been on the board and have no desire to be on any board. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but that's not my. And the other thing that I always refused to do, well, when I started my career out as a young magician, I was in the competitions. I was in the for the IBM, the gold medal competition, and then FISM, and I competed at Abbott's in the youth contest. And then later on, they always ask you, hey, would you be a judge at the contest? I always say, no, sorry, I can't do that, because if you're a judge, it's a tough job, it's a thankless job.
Yeah.
Trying to judge a magic contest, and you make one friend for life and 29 enemies for life.
What is your favorite place to perform?
Oh boy, that's a good question.
Whether it be a city or a specific venue or wherever it may be.
I Gee, I don't know. That's a hard question to answer. I loved performing in so many different places. I tend to really enjoy beautiful theaters. For instance, this last year, the last show we did was at the Blackpool Opera House. Now, this venue in Blackpool was built in the 1860s.
Yeah.
So when Abraham Lincoln was the president of the United States, they built this theater. So the architecture is just beautiful. There's like 2-3 balconies, but the theater, even though the building is old, they had every modern convenience you could think of. The sound system was first rate. The lighting system, there were moving lights. They had a LED wall back behind you on stage where you could project any kind of image you want. It was just really a wonderful experience. I really just enjoy now going and playing different places. And one of the things, since we started traveling around doing these shows, one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of the casinos and venues will have these video walls, these and screens like on the side of the stage, which is great because that can then open up possibilities of doing magic that you wouldn't normally be able to do in a theater. So I'm thinking about, how can I add a segment into the show, more of a close-up segment, or something that I can do just for the camera, where you can have a deck of cards or something and just get right up onto the camera so they can project it on the screens.
Yeah.
Well, that's all. And I see one of my cats is that's Talma there, named after Leroy Talma and Bosco Talma. And there's Libby over there. And they were both born on Gary Darwin's back porch there in Las Vegas. And I adopted them.
Yeah. Now I kind of want to touch base on that. I see tons and tons of posts of all the different places that you support these shelters and the pet rescues and stuff like that. So something there has to be kind of near and dear to your heart about that. So what got you involved in that?
Yeah, I've always loved animals and grew up loving animals. And of course I still have my birds. They're here at the farm, although they're retired. They're too old to work now, but they're living in retirement and have a nice, easy lifestyle. But I've always loved animals. And so I do if you follow me on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, 90% of my posts are about animal adoption and animal rescue. And maybe 10% of my posts are about magic and shows. So anybody that follows me gets to see, dogs and cats that are up for adoption. I tend to repost a lot of things from the Nevada SPCA, which is a great no-kill animal shelter out in Las Vegas, and then the Kentucky Humane Society here in Kentucky. And for instance, these cats here, there's Tama. There's a good shot of her. My buddy Gary Darwin, he started feeding these cats. There was a colony of feral cats that lived in his neighborhood, and he started feeding these cats. And he enjoyed having the cats around. Now, the only problem was these cats kept having babies on Gary's back porch every few months. So eventually, I think there's cats hissing at each other. Eventually, I got a group to come out there, a group there in Las Vegas called Heaven Can Wait Animal Society. And I had met these folks several years ago, and I did a show for them for their Christmas party, I think. And so I knew these people, and they're all very nice. So anyway, I called them up, and they said, we'll be right out there. This is exactly what we do. And they have this trap, neuter, and release program. So they brought out the live traps and set them and had Gary, here's the number, Gary. Whenever there's a cat, you just call us. We'll come pick him up. So they trapped 20 cats. They're on Gary's property. So about half of the cats were already spayed and neutered from a previous, like 5 years earlier, a group that had been out there doing the same thing. But they took them all back to their shelter. They gave them all the surgery, so they're all spayed and neutered. They brought them back, and now everything's fine. Now Gary can feed the cats, and he enjoyed, talking to them and petting them, and everything's fine. And they weren't having babies every few months. But before we got to that point, I would go over to Gary's house once a week to check on him and help him with his medication. Gary was diabetic and had some, high blood pressure. So I tried to help him keep his medicine straight and get it all set up. So I'd go over there, and these little cats showed up, and they had eye infection, little kittens. So I started catching them and taking them, thinking, okay, I'm going to foster these little kittens. I'll take them to the vet and get them fixed up. And so, my assistant Edelyn and I are bottle feeding, these little kittens with a little bottle of milk. So anyway, the plan was I was going to be a foster parent. I was a complete failure as a foster Because, 3 or 4 months later, they're all spayed and neutered. They're ready to find homes. And then we're looking at them and go, well, we can't give these cats away. We love them now.
They're family.
That's how I wound up with all these cats. And I got my dog Rocky. He's I can probably show him to you. He's napping right now.
Oh yeah.
He fell asleep. Rocky? No, he's sleeping.
It's a fun story, though.
There's my white tiger.
Pretty still. It's calm.
Yeah, he's that was a gift from my good friends Siegfried and Roy when we had our world premiere of my movie, Billy Toppet, Master Magician.
Oh,
they sent this beautiful white stuffed. That's a toy stuffed white tiger.
Yeah,
he's back here with me in Kentucky.
Very cool. Looks like we got a whole bunch more comments and questions coming through here. Let's see. What is the here we go. Another one from Bernard here.
Hilarious thing. Yeah. Oh, everything has happened. When you do 15, 16,000 shows, everything has gone wrong that you can possibly imagine, and things that you can't imagine. A lot of my big faux pas involved the animals, because I did the doves, and I had in my show I had ducks and geese. One time, now this was one of my favorite things that happened. When this was back in the 1980s, and I was at the Tropicana Hotel in Las Vegas, and I was doing the dove act that everybody remembers seeing me do, birds and cards. So at that point, the Tropicana Hotel was owned by the Ramada Corporation.
Wow.
And the Ramada corporate office was in Phoenix, Arizona. So one day, it was announced that the entire show, we were going to pack up the whole show. We were going to fly to Phoenix, and we were going to do a sort of a touring version of the Folies Bergère in Phoenix at this big convention center. And it was a charity fundraiser, and the people who were going to be attending were lots of rich people and patrons of the arts and employees of the Ramada Corporation. So, okay, great. So we all go to Phoenix, Arizona. I mean, everybody, the singers, the dancers, the magician, the comic, the band. So this is back when we had live music. So Joe Castro was the name of the orchestra leader. So there we are. We're doing the show. I go out on stage. I'm doing my act. The band is behind me. They're playing the music. I'm producing birds and the cards. And all of a sudden, now you have to understand, in my act at that point, everything is dark and there's just spotlights on me. And that's how you light a manipulation act. Everything's dark, just a spotlight on the magician. So standing on stage, I can't see anything. I'm totally blind. All I see is this black void in front of me. So I'm pretending that I can see people in the audience. So when I look into the audience, when I look to the left and smile and over to the right and wave, I'm pretending I can't see anything. It's all an act. So I'm doing my act, and all of a sudden, oops, and there's Yellow Kid. There's another kid. So anyway, all of a sudden, one of the doves doesn't fly up to the street lamp where it's supposed to. It flies off into this black void. And now there is this roar from the audience. I mean, this scream, this guttural reaction, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going on? And it just grows and gets louder and louder, and people are laughing and screaming, and I'm going, I don't know what's going on, but I clearly cannot continue with the show. So I look back at the conductor and I go, Joe, stop the music. And the band stops. Now I walk down the stairs into the audience. I got to see what's going on. Now I walk and I get up to the front row, and there's a man sitting in the front row perfectly still, and my bird is sitting on his head. And everybody around him, they're all screaming, pointing and laughing and slapping their knees, and they are just going crazy because my bird is sitting on this guy's head. So well, that's why they were screaming. So I walk over and I stick my finger up, and I get the bird on my finger, and I get it. So now I got the bird on my finger, and I start to go back, and I stop and I look back at the guy. Now I reach in my pocket and I take out my pocket handkerchief and I wipe down the top of his head. Sorry, sir. Sorry about that, And that gets a huge laugh.
Yeah.
Another scream. And so I go back up on stage with the bird, I toss the bird, he goes to the lamp. I finish the act. I get off stage. I'm feeling pretty good because I got a great reaction. So now the stage manager of the Follies Bergère, Don Martinez, comes up to me after the show, and he says, Lance, he says, hey, I was just out in the audience, and the entire audience, like 5,000 people, all of them are out there. They're all talking about your bird. And I went, oh yeah, that was pretty funny, wasn't it, Don? Did you see that? Did you see the thing on his head? Did you see my gag I did with the handkerchief? I got a big laugh. And he said, oh yeah, I saw it. He says, do you know who that was? And I'm like, what, the guy with the bird? I said, no, who was that? He says, the guy's name is Richard Schnell. That's the chairman of the board of the Ramada Corporation. So I said, wait a minute. The guy with the bird, that's my boss's 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 boss? And he goes, yeah. When we get back to Vegas, do I still have a job? But it turns out that the chairman of the board had a great sense of humor, and he loved it. And all of the employees were coming up to him after the show and complimenting him and saying, oh, that was funny. That bit you and Lance did in the show. That was hilarious. How long did you guys rehearse that? How did Lance get that bird to land on your head?
Right. It's got to be in every show now.
So now he's the star of the show. Yeah. And it was a total accident. So anyway, that was the first time that it happened. Now, and then in the ensuing 30 years, it happened several more times in my career. Yeah. So I always had the joke ready, with the handkerchief. And
yeah,
I did it. That. It happened maybe a dozen times in my career total.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great story. Oh, that's fun. Somebody is asking, what is your favorite type of magic to perform? Whatever it may be, cards or whatever.
Well, yeah, I guess my first love is sleight of hand magic. That's the act I started with. But really, I've always loved all the different kinds of magic. I love, of course, sleight of hand magic. I also love the big illusions. I love close-up magic. I love doing audience participation parts of the show. If I had to pick one trick out of the whole show, it's tough to pick one trick. It's like asking a parent who their favorite child is, and they all have one. They just don't like to say it. But if I had to pick one trick, I guess it would be the Miser's Dream, because that was the trick that got me started in magic. And I love doing that trick. And I do that trick in my show now. When I was a kid, first time I saw a magic show was at a Christmas party. I was 5 years old. My dad worked at a building supply company there in Louisville. And my mom worked at the Frito-Lay plant making potato chips. And this was the Christmas party for the Frito-Lay employees. And they also had a fellow that worked there at the plant. His name was Harry Collins. And he was a terrific magician. Was born in Glasgow, Kentucky. And later on, he started as a salesman at the Louisville plant, but he was really a fantastic magician. And later on in his career, the Frito-Lay corporate office took notice of him, and they created a job for him, and he became the Frito-Lay Goodwill Ambassador. And all he did was magic full time. They sent him all over the country, every trade show. He played the Texas State Fair every year, every plant opening. And he worked full time for one company, Frito-Lay, as a corporate magician. Harry could do stage magic. He could do close-up magic. He could do hospitality suite. Just terrific. But at this time, he was a salesman and kind of doing magic on the side. Well, we go to this Christmas party, and he asked for a volunteer from the audience, and I was the kid that got picked. I went up on stage, and he did the Miser's Dream. He reached behind my ear, and he pulled out a silver dollar, and that was my first exposure to magic, and that's what made me think, this is what I want to do. I want to learn how to do this. Now, at the time, of course, I didn't understand that it was a trick. I was 5 years old. I thought it was real magic. So for the next month, every day, I would get up, I'd brush my teeth, I'd look in the mirror, and I'd very carefully, I would check, all the places where he had found coins. And I did this every day, looking to see if there were any more there. And then, finally someone took pity on me and said, Lance, it's not real magic. The guy, it's a skill that the man learned. And then I went, oh, okay. So then I figured, oh, well, that's probably good news. If it was real magic, I guess you're born with it or you're not born with it.
Right.
If it's a skill, it's something you can study and learn.
Yeah. Speaking of that, you kind of reminded me of one thing I wanted to talk about and kind of your opinion on. But it's amazing, magic for me, being in the magic community and stuff, has always been, present. It's been there. Then lately, it's became, very out in the open with social media and YouTube. And of course, America's Got Talent and all the TV shows that's been out, like Penn and Teller Fool Us doing magic and stuff. But it amazes me how many people actually come into the shop and they've never seen it before. And they think the same as you did, even kids and adults just doing a simple sponge ball routine, they have that childlike reaction.
Oh, yeah.
It amazes me how many people still think that, it's real magic, and they don't understand it.
Well, you can watch magic on TV or you can watch it on the internet, but you're always one step removed from the magic, aren't you?
Yeah.
You see something on TV, it may amaze you, but you go, well, maybe they did something with the camera. Maybe they did. But when you see magic live and in person, that's there. That's right there live. You're experiencing it live and in person. That's always the best way to see magic. seeing magic, seeing a magician live and in person, that's always the most powerful, most effective way to experience magic, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And it truly, as cheesy as it sounds, it warms my heart to see people get those reactions, even on the simplest stuff, whether it be at my shop or wherever they may be. So,
oh yeah, that's the best part of the job. Going back the rest of my life, I spent trying to get back to that moment when I was 5 years old, and that silver dollar came out from behind my ear. So, I don't get that feeling that much anymore. Although when I see a magician that amazes me, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But now I get to experience it vicariously through the audience. So, in my show, I bring up the 5-year-old kid and pull the silver dollars up from his eye. I get to re-experience that moment all over again.
Yeah. And, that's my fuel for performing and why I keep doing it. And honestly, my personal opinion, I don't want to point fingers, but I think that was honestly the secret to your success, because among all other magicians, I think that you were the most sincere on stage, and you could see that you were purely enjoying that reaction that you were getting from the audience, that you could feel it the same. So
that was the part I think I missed the most when I retired, was that relationship with the audience. Yeah. So, I retired. I really didn't do any shows for like 7 years. And then when we did our first Lance Burton and Friends show, first time I walked out on stage. I hadn't been out there in 7 years. And I heard the audience, and we started the show, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember. Yes. All right, guys. All right, this is fun. Let's do it.
It's a great feeling. And I remember as soon as Copperfield went back on stage, everybody said the first thing I do is go see Copperfield's first show, because he's going to be energized again and be back on stage, because anybody can get burnt out, having night after night after night shows, but when you get that little break, you get excited again. So to be on that first show back, that would have been amazing to see.
Yeah, so it's good to take a little break, get away from it every now and then. Then you come back, you really appreciate it. This 15, 16 months, whatever it's been, maybe it's a little too long. But I'm happy. I'm happy everybody's magic. So. Oh, look, here's Brett. Brett says, "Howdy, Lance." Brett is one of a magician there in Louisville that I've known for many, many years. He's very active in the Louisville Magic Club. And I don't know, Brett, are you the vice president of the club now, or the treasurer, or the sergeant at arms or something? I think he has a title. But anyway, he's a great guy, and I'm hoping to get back. I've been to a couple of the Louisville Magic Club meetings during COVID. They've switched the meetings to a Zoom platform, but now they're going back live. So hopefully I'll be able to see some of the guys live again soon.
Yeah. Looks like he is the tech director.
Tech director. There.
Tech director.
Tech director.
Fun to say.
That sounds like a made-up title to me. I don't know.
Well,
I'm going to have to check with the International Brotherhood of Magicians to see if that's a real title.
Let's see here. We got just a couple more. I won't keep you too much longer. I appreciate your time. But first one here, just a message of gratitude. Thank you for sharing that great story about the dove mishap. You've been a wonderful ambassador for the magic world, very generous with your time. Thank you for all you have done and continue to do.
Thank you. Very nice of you, Bernard. At this point in my career, I like performing, but I feel that my main job is, as you say, being an ambassador for magic and promoting magic for young people. And whenever I perform live, I always like to take a moment near the end of the show to let the audience know that magic is the world's greatest hobby. You don't have to be a professional magician to get a lot out of magic, and everyone is welcome to participate in magic. and I tell them my story about as a kid seeing the Miser's Dream and studying magic and going to the school library and reading the magic books. So I don't want people to think that it's a closed society. It's an art form that we welcome everybody who has a interest in magic. And I try to sign up new members for the IBM, International Brotherhood of Magicians. I carry with me applications, and in the meet and greets after the show, I'll have people come up, and I don't have to say anything. They'll say, "Hey, could I have one of those?" I went, "Yes, you can," and I give them a application. So I'm signing up new members.
Yeah. And, when I do my even school shows, it's funny because I do multiple shows for the same school. The one thing I always do is I donate a magic book to the school.
Nice.
For their library. And when I returned to the school a year later, 2 years later, I was like, "Now, do you guys remember that magic book I donated?" I'm like, "Go look at that." And then they're always like, "Someone took it." I'm like, "Well, that's good.
No.
That's a good thing." Because now that person gets to go learn, I'll give you another one. So.
Hey, here's a comment from Siobhan Taylor, who is actually my niece.
Hi,
Siobhan. And she wants to know if we have any shows planned for Kentucky. And Siobhan, yes, I do. I'm going to look on my phone here, and I'll give you guys the exact dates. On September 10th, Friday, September 10th, I will be performing for the Louisville Magic Club, their annual public show. They call it their It's Magic Show, and that will be in Louisville, September 10th. And I'm looking forward to that, along with other friends of mine from Kentucky and members of the Louisville Magic Club. And then I am doing a banquet. Well, that's it hasn't been announced yet. Wait a minute. And I have another one here in October 16th, Saturday. I will be doing a show there in Louisville called The Magic and the Wonder. And that is a show that is produced every year by my buddy Pat Miller for Cosair Charities. And the Cosair Children's Hospital there in Louisville is part of the Shriners Hospitals. And Cosair Charities is big in this area for helping kids with medical needs. And so Pat has been doing this show annually for maybe 20 years. And I've been on it a couple times before in years past, but I will be on it this year. And again, that date is October 16th. And I will try to put that on my Facebook page and Twitter as we get closer. So if anybody, and perhaps my website too, lanceburton.com. So, and then in November, the first weekend there in November, I believe I am going to be at the Unconventional Convention. And that's a magic convention that they are, they hold down in Cumberland Falls, Kentucky, not far from Tombstone Junction, where Matt King and I did our first professional show.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to be back, and I'm happy to be back in Kentucky, and I do have a few performances coming up.
Very cool. So, and those will usually always be posted on your social media or your website, right?
Yeah, I'll try to post all those.
So make sure to follow Lance there. So any
somebody's
shows
asking about the Northeast. We're hoping to come to the Northeast. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We were supposed to. The IBM convention was supposed to have been in Pittsburgh this year. Next year it'll be in Atlanta, Georgia, 2022, and then 2023. I think we're planning on coming back to Pittsburgh for the IBM convention. And very nice. So thanks everybody, all the great comments. I'm looking, people have been sending in comments through Facebook and through YouTube.
Yeah, all that good stuff. It's been great. Thank you, everybody who watched and participated, asked questions, talked about memories, and all that fun stuff that you had done. One more time, Lance, the purpose why we're here, your show coming up in North Dakota. Tell me a little bit about it.
Yeah, July 17th, and we will be at the Prairie Knights Casino in Fort Yates, North Dakota. So this is our first show back since the pandemic. So we're all very, very excited. And my first time in North Dakota and first time back after the pandemic. So it's going to be, we're all going to be amped up and ready to do a great show. So go to lanceburton.com. There's a link that'll take you right there to buy tickets if you can make it.
Yeah. So I look forward to seeing you there. I will be at the show regardless. So other than that,
I hear you're bringing some of the local magicians up with you.
Yeah. I'm trying to wrangle them up. It's quite a drive. It's about a 5.5-hour drive from here. So it's an overnight show or overnight visit. So trying to wrap their mind around that, but we'll see who we got. But if not, I got plenty of people ready to fill the seats.
So we don't have to leave that night. We don't have to leave till the next day. So we'll do the show, we'll do the meet and greets, and then if the magicians are coming up, hang around, and we'll find a coffee shop or a restaurant to go, and I'll bring the other cast members, and we'll go hang out for a while.
Good. All right, that sounds great, Lance. Well, thank you again so much for your time. And definitely on a side note, tell Edelyn, thank you so much for putting this all together. She was great. Communication was great. It was fun
I
to
sure
work.
will.
So, all right. Well, thank you very much, Lance. You enjoy the rest of your day, your evening, whatever time it may be. I think we're in the same time zone, so it's only 3. So plenty of day left.
Thanks, Travis. All right. Yeah, IBM convention starts this evening, so I'm going to pop into that and see what they're doing.
All right. Thank you very much, Lance. Have a good night.
Guys. Nice to see you all. Thanks for your questions. Take care.